I'm gonna mute myself.
Okay. So we started last week. I decided to change up the way that we're doing our team nights and our team calls and started putting them more towards like creating like a permission for it to be like a family business and not so much our business. I know that it's like, I don't know why, but there's such a we get into this business and we have this mindset of this is my business and I have to keep it hidden from my significant other or my family or my friends, and I have to kind of sort of dabble in posting on social media, and I can't share my big goals because people might think that I'm crazy. Meanwhile, we know that they're possible, but they're almost too big or too crazy for other people to believe that they're possible. So one of the things that we started doing with our team calls last week for our team is just starting to invite other people within our family. So Kyle's a lot more, at least invested and involved within the business and the vision now. And I know that a lot of my team has a lot of questions on how do you get your spouse involved? How do you get them believing in it? How do you get your family to support you? And so on and so forth. So I really wanted to incorporate the family. So I am going to talk at the end about how this exact practice, like sharing your story, sharing your vision, doing that action in the business, will also transfer over into how it can benefit your spouse or your family or the support of people around you. And like that actual task of it, the actual activity of doing that. So we're going to dive in. I'm so excited. Megan asked me to talk about something that I feel like I don't realize that it's something that I'm doing, but it's constantly being pointed out over the last few weeks. And I guess it's something that I am doing without necessarily realizing because I'm not really trying to do it. And as hard as it is, I guess one of the biggest tips is to release the pressure. And I guess I really started to do the storytelling aspect of things when I started going to therapy, because that was something that was really vulnerable for me. And I just wanted to share this story of this experience because it's not talked about. People don't talk about going to therapy on social media. It is this hidden activity that we do behind the scenes and nobody knows about it. And so when I started sharing that, I really started practicing and got really good at sharing this story. And now I've been incorporating it into my coaching posts as well. So I have 5 tips of really how to share your story and your vision, all of them combined, as best as possible and really connect with people. So the first tip that I would have to actually share your story is to get vulnerable. And I remember when people would say this, I'm like, well, I am vulnerable. I am talking about it. But what I would say when it comes to getting vulnerable is talk about, like, write a post sharing about the hard thing that you are thinking, that you are going through, that you are pushing for, the thing that makes you squirm, that makes you so uncomfortable. For me, one of the most uncomfortable topics to share about is my vision in the business. Because I'm confident, I come off confident. People think that I do way better than I actually do because that's what I portray. And I probably do that because it's like, it's always, I always laugh, but it's the theory of like a guy who, you know, has a small penis and a big ego kind of thing. Like that's literally what I think about. I'm like, that's what I'm doing. I'm overcompensating. But the reason I am so uncomfortable about it is because if I am sharing a goal that I am not necessarily comfortable, you know, or I'm not confident that I actually am going to hit it, then I squirm. I'm like, ooh, I don't want to put that out there. So literally just before this call, I made a Instagram series coaching invite that is exactly that. Like, I got super uncomfortable and was like, this is what I'm doing. And the entire time, I'm hot, I'm sweaty, I'm uncomfortable, and I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to put this out there because, again, for way too long, I have never shared my actual goals out in the public, even to Kyle, because I'm terrified that if I don't hit them, then people are going to judge me. I'm going to feel ashamed. I'm going to feel embarrassed. That feeling of I'm afraid to talk about this thing because of what other people are going to say, that's the vulnerability factor. Now, you obviously don't want to put yourself in a position where, you're really going to throw up or feel uncomfortable or like want to quit doing this, but that's the vulnerability factor that I'm talking about. That vulnerability was never seen in any of my posting. If you go back even, 6 months ago, that was never there. I did not talk about things to that extent. I was vulnerable, like, here's my story, but I could tell everybody, yeah, I felt like a freaking Oompa Loompa that you could roll down the hill, and I felt so uncomfortable. Like, that was me. I could talk about that, no problem. That was not vulnerable. I thought it was, because it's uncomfortable putting a picture on social media in your sports bra and underwear and saying, like, this is where I was 3 years ago, and I was fat, and all of this stuff. Like, that to me, I thought was vulnerable. But it didn't make me squirm. It didn't make me uncomfortable. And it did not bring out that sense of, oh my gosh, like that sense of growth. When I started to share the things that I was really uncomfortable with, that I would get hot and sweaty and like, kind of afraid of what people are going to think. That's the vulnerability factor that changed everything. As soon as I started doing that, I've literally been getting messages all the time saying, man, your storytelling is so good. You share authentically on social media. Like, this is the second call in the last month, I think it's been, that I've been asked to talk about sharing up and showing on social media, something that I didn't go about intentionally being like, oh, I'm going to get really good at this. The major thing that I did was I started to get vulnerable and I started to share the really uncomfortable things. If you're thinking in your head, how the heck am I going to do that? How am I possibly going to show up on social media talking about the most uncomfortable thing ever? Start small. For me, I started with therapy, which was something completely unrelated to coaching. It has nothing to do with coaching. And, like, nobody's going to be like, hey, I want to join your team because I'm talking about therapy. I talked about something that was close to me, emotional to me, but something that I am also comfortable with getting uncomfortable with. So for you, maybe it's not talking about your vision in the business. Maybe you don't start out talking about your health and fitness transformation, because to you, that's as barfy scary as it is for me to talk about my vision and my goals with the business. Maybe for you, you start out talking about that that thing that you're going through, maybe the job transition that you're going to do. Maybe it's being a mom. Maybe it's being a wife or being a girlfriend or something that you are currently going through. Start there. And I promise you, especially with the rest of the tips, I promise you, slowly but surely, you're going to get into this habit of, oh, this is how I share my vulnerability. This is how I share what I'm going through authentically, and you'll be able to start talking about the coaching and the vision and all of that. Maybe for you, you're the opposite, and you can talk about your vulnerable, scary, audacious goals with the business, and that feels good. Talk about that. The second tip I have, along with the vulnerability, to make it easier to be vulnerable there, you need to get rid of this idea that it's for you. You're not writing a post when you are sharing vulnerably and your story. You're not writing for you. You are writing for the people reading it. That was huge. When I go to write a post about my vision or about my therapy, when I go to write that post, I don't write for me. I remove right out of the equation. I am writing that post for the girl who needs to read it. That's who I envision. That's who I'm sharing for. So that vulnerability, it's coming out because I want to help her. I want to give her the permission to dream bigger, to go to therapy, to be comfortable to talk about it, let alone book an appointment. That's who I'm writing for. So get rid of it. It's not about you when you're being vulnerable. It's about the person that needs to hear it. Because this entire process of storytelling, of connecting, of creating the vision, it's about building a relationship and a connection with people. And that's how you're going to get people to join you. It's not from selling something or preaching the coaching opportunity left, right, and center. It's about connecting, and these people are going to connect with your story. And if you are like me and you're sick and tired of having people join your team who are nothing like you, this is what will change your business. It is getting really vulnerable, and it's talking to the people who need to hear that voice, and you're ditching you. You're taking you out of the equation. Okay, the second tip, hang on, is to really share what's helping in your life. So when I'm going every day and I'm starting to create a post or something like that, I think about something that I'm doing or something that I learned or a challenge that I'm doing, like something that I'm pushing myself to do, or something that we are doing together as a couple where we are in a season of our life. And I talk and share in a post about something that is helping us. I don't talk about things that are, going wrong or complaining or anything like that. I am not the person to go to on social media if you want to feel good about your problems. Really, truthfully, that's not me. I am not the person that will, you can go to their social media and you can be like, oh my God, they're just so real. They give me the goods. They make me feel good because they're going through the same thing. That is not me. The way I show up on social media is, this is what I'm doing to make my life better. This is what I'm doing to be a better wife. This is what I'm doing to overcome this obstacle. So for me, a way that I storytell, a way that I share, a way that I paint the vision, a way that I show up authentically is I talk about the things that are helping me. Something, and again, this can be vulnerability. So again, a great example of this would be journaling. I am a huge journaler. If you don't follow me, I talk a lot about journaling, and I do most of it on my stories, but that's terrifying for me too. You guys, it's not easy to show up, especially on camera, and say, I'm a journaler, because a lot of people are like, I don't journal. I'm not spiritual, or I don't believe in that stuff. Even talking about it with Kyle, I'm like, oh yeah, so I journaled today. But doing that, one, when I talk about journaling with Kyle, it allows me to bring up things that I've felt uncomfortable talking about otherwise. So I'm like, babe, I journaled on this today and it feels super awkward to talk about and it's not very comfortable, but here's what I wrote about. And he can finally understand certain things that I'm going through or that I'm growing through. When I show up on social media, I can say things like, I overcame this in my journal. And this is what journaling is doing for me. So if you watched my stories yesterday, I don't think they're up anymore, but yesterday I shared a long segment, but I shared about how I get through the holidays, which are not an easy time for me personally, using my journal. It was terrifying. It's almost like that fear feeling, like my fear, my ego want to try and tell me like, oh, you're just a child. You write like a diary every day. Like all of these things are going through my head, but I know that it's helping me. And if it's helping me in my life right now, which was yesterday, during a holiday, which is a really hard time for me to get through that, if I'm being helped with this journaling process, I can share it for somebody else. And if I can share that thing that's helping me, no matter how terrifying it is, it can maybe help somebody else too. I got messages immediately yesterday after sharing those that segment about journaling. I got about 3 or 4 messages right away saying, I want to learn how to journal, or I am right there with you. It's hard during the holidays with me too. Those are things that I am connecting with these other people that says I'm a human. I'm not just a coach, I'm a human. And that is what is getting people who are just like me to join my team. And I don't have to sift through all of these other people. I'm getting people who connect with my story. So maybe you don't have a extra sentimental story or a really hard, challenging story like I might, but there is something, or should be, and maybe this is the kick in the butt for you to go and do something to push you outside and grow and do better and be better. But there is something that you are doing, whether it's yourself, in your relationship, in your family, to make your life better, that is helping you through something, good, bad, hard, whatever it is. Share that. That's what I choose to share. The third tip I have for you is to get rid. So I hear a lot of, I don't want to show up and share too much because it's really uncomfortable, and I don't want to share my personal life too much. And I totally get that. Believe me. It took me a really long time to get comfortable sharing my family story and trying to navigate, how do I share that right now? How do I share that? If you've followed my story along throughout this year, it's been a really hard year. And I've had to figure out how to navigate sharing that, how to show up as a real, honest person who isn't happy-go-lucky Ray every single day. How do I navigate that? How do I really show up and share that? And so what I've been doing is removing my personal details. So for you, if you go to tell a story or you go to talk about something, remove the really personal details and just talk about the main part of the story. So for example, for me, I talk about my story with anxiety, depression, my struggle season as this mental health mountain climb. That's what I call it. I call it the mental health mountain climb. And I remove the really nitty-gritty details about how I'm really feisty with Kyle and we argue all the time when I'm really struggling, or when if it has something to do with my actual family. I don't talk about those details. Those are basically in between the lines. I could, if I really wanted to put my whole life out there, I could talk about whatever the heck I wanted to. But for me, it's really uncomfortable. And I don't think that people need to know every single detail of my story to connect with me and what I'm going through, or to know that they're not alone. And it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't need to be a really hard story. But whatever it is, that vulnerable piece, that thing that you're doing to help your life, take the personal details out and just write the actual important pieces of it. You will figure out how to create sentences that make it vague, but also make it personal. But at the end of the day, you don't need to say, Kyle and I fought today. You can say, it's been a really hard day. It's not always easy in a relationship. Read between the lines, right between those lines. It says, my relationship isn't perfect, and there was an argument today, right? And that still even allows people to fill in their own story, their own struggles, their own pieces of that. You want to just take out the super personal details. People don't need to know what my dad said to me, or what my mom said to me today, or what my friend said to me when we were arguing. They don't need to know those stories. They don't need to know what my husband agrees with or doesn't agree with, supports me or doesn't support me. All they need to know is it's not always easy in the day-to-day of being a wife, being a business owner, being a whatever it is, being a mom. So take the personal details out as you're sharing those vulnerable or helping stories. The fourth one, to give you a prompt of what you can share, is what are you pushing for right now in this exact season? So I explain this to my team and to my clients all the time. We go through seasons. There is a season of really pushing in your business. There is a season for personal growth. There is a season for your relationship. Last year when we were getting married and planning for our wedding, it was all about the wedding. Every single day, every single minute, every single moment, it was about that. That was a season. There's a season for maybe you're a student. There's a season for starting a new job. There's a season for really pushing in your health and fitness, and another season for maintaining. Maybe there's even a season for increasing on weight or decreasing on your health habits or whatever it is. There is a season for everything. And no matter what season you're in, there is something that you are focused on or pushing for. Take us through the journey of that season. If you are in a season where you're not necessarily portraying the ideal of what a coach is. So earlier in the year, for the first 7 months of 2019, I was anything but the ideal coach. I sucked at my workouts. I was gaining weight, not losing weight. I did Transform 20 twice, and I did not change. I actually gained weight. I was anxious. I was depressed. I was struggling in my business. I didn't hit Success Club. I had all of the reasons to not be an ideal coach. That was a season. How I showed up and shared, and how I vulnerably and honestly said, I'm here, but I'm not here, is I took them through the season of I'm going through this mountain climb, but I'm still fighting. Every single day I get up and I push to hope that it is going to be better. Every single day I show up and I am not giving up. Every single day I am doing my workout, whether it's for 10 minutes or I sit on the floor and cry all day, or I crush my workout. There is a season of personal growth. That was my season. And I showed up every single day that I could. And I talked about that. And I shared what I was going through. This is not easy. This has been hard. It's not a breeze. It's not a walk in the park. And I am really refocusing on what I need to go through. Now, if you look at my posts, now my season is hustle. It is a full-blown blinders on. Don't talk to me. Don't expect anything of me. I am not here. I am a walking, focused zombie of work. And it's only been like that for like a month or so, like 2 months maybe. If you look at my posts now, they are all about the vision of the business, where I'm going, what I'm doing, what I'm transforming, how I'm transforming. I am in a season of talking about my goal in the business. 6 months ago, I didn't talk crap. I showed up in each season. When we were getting married last year, I talked a lot about our relationship. So who I was recruiting was a lot of people in the relationship, or getting married or whatever. They were in that same season. So for you, a prompt to share your story or your vulnerability or something that you can help people with that's helping you is, what is the thing that you are going through or that you're pushing for right now? When I open up my phone and I'm like, hey, gotta write another Instagram post, it's literally like the biggest chore of the day in my opinion. But I go to it with, okay, what first I say, what am I going through? Really, I use posting on social media as a journal type source. Like I just write what I'm going through. But if I don't have anything to really say on the vulnerability aspect of things, I will say, okay, what am I really pushing for right now? What am I going through and pushing for? And how can I paint the vision, I combine the two, of where I'm going? That's how I create my content. That's how I show up and share for other people. Okay, the last tip. Okay. One of the things that I've started to do, this is for still tip 4, but one of the things that I've started to do, you know how Instagram now is doing like see your memories from a year ago or whatever? I write posts for my vision so that I can see that post in a year from now. So I go and write a post painting the vision of what I want to accomplish, the exact like nitty gritty detailed vision of what I want, so that in a year from now on that day, I can go and read that and be like, wow, this is pretty freaking cool that I did that. That's how I create my vision posts. So if you remember, vision posts are not my jam. They are the most squirmy, uncomfortable topic for me to talk about, because I can say all day till I'm blue in the face, I'm gonna earn 6 figures. But that is so like big and vague, and I wouldn't even know how to put it together. So I can do that. That's comfortable for me, and I'm confident, and I know for a fact that will happen. But to say that I am pushing for, 1 star, 5 stars, 10 star, whatever it is, or if you have an income goal, whatever it is, to say that, that's terrifying. Or to say that in a year from now, we're gonna be building a house or buying a home, or this is what my office is gonna look like in 2 years from now, or this is what I want to be as a mom, or whatever. That to me is like, oh my God, if I share that, I actually have to do that. Right? So that's how I do my vision posts. I think about the Ray in 1 year who will get that memory, and it will pop up on Facebook or Instagram, and I'll be like, oh my gosh, how freaking cool is that? Okay, tip number 5 on how to really prompt and create these vulnerability and storytelling posts is to stop selling and to start connecting. Every single post that I put up, I have the question of who and how can I connect to with this post. I stopped, I let go of, because for me, it really felt daunting. It didn't feel authentic. It didn't feel real for me to always be talking about a challenge group or a coach mentorship group, or the business in general. So I stopped selling and I started connecting. And what I mean by that is when I write my posts, I ask who and how can I connect with in this post. And from there, at the end, if I'm doing a post that, like, for example, to give you an idea, I wrote a post the other day about money. And I shared a really vulnerable story that I've literally never shared before about how I used to live on a cash budget when I was in my last year of college. And at the end of it, realistically, I was writing a post about money. I was trying to show the benefits of how this business has changed my financial situation without saying, I make all of this money or you can be a millionaire. I wrote a story. I connected with somebody who is going through the same thing. Maybe they're on a budget. You can read through the lines, and I give details, but not an excessive amount of details. And then at the end, I said here, I said, new coach mentorship spots are open. Do you need this? Let me show you the magic and help you change your story. Hashtag link in the bio or message for details. that is how I sold coaching. So when I go to write my posts, I focus mainly on the connection piece, because by the end of that, when they get to the part where it says, I've got spots in my to join my team, or if you've ever wanted to get help with your fitness, you can do so. Something like that. By the end, my expectation is that they're going to be asking, okay, how do I join? I need this. This is what I want. I shouldn't need to put new coach mentorship starting. I shouldn't need to put it because they should want to do that because they connected to my story and they're like, I need this in my life. That's just there as a final, hey, you can do this, okay? When I do my posts, I focus on connecting, not selling. I ditched this idea of you need to sell, and just started connecting. Where I do the salesy kind of stuff is in my messaging. That's really where I talk about the business, my boot camps. That's where the selling can go down. They already connect with you based on you showing up and being vulnerable and being a human that they agree with or connect with or relate to. When you talk about the business and the challenge groups and the price and all of that crap, that's in the DM where it's personal, it's one-on-one, and you can be a little bit more like, girl, do this. This is why it's so great, blah, 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 okay? Okay, to wrap everything up in a pretty bow, and the way that I have found that being vulnerable, sharing stories, and painting the vision can really involve Kyle. So for you, if that's your spouse or significant other or a friend or a family member or whatever it is, I started to tell him my exact vision, but I also started to ask him about his vision. Where do you see us going? What would you like this business to do for us? I started asking him about, how have I grown over the last month? Or what have I really improved on over the last couple of months? Where was I 3 years ago? I started to ask him for his input to share the vision and the stories. And in doing so, I started painting this vision of what the business is doing as well as what it can do for him. So my tip for you to really bring in the people within your life and make it a family business, not just a me business, ask them, what is it that this business is doing for me? What is it that you want this business to do for us? If you could have X number of dollars, put it in, fill in the blank for you. Maybe it's an extra $1,000 for your family. Maybe it's an extra $500 for your family. Ask them, what would you want to spend this extra $1,000 on? What would you like to spend this extra $100 a month on? Ask them, like straight up ask them. And then go and write a post about it. Go and write a post about how you want to create this reality of giving that. Talk about it with your significant other or your family. And, even if you have kids, especially if you have kids who are old enough to really dream, I would ask them, what if we could do something this weekend? It could be anything in the world. What would you want it to be? Then write a post about it. Talk about how you want to create this opportunity for your children and you to go and do this. Maybe you then set it as a goal. Maybe they want to go get their nails done, right? Like something so simple. Maybe they want to go and get their nails done. And you set that as a goal. You show up on your Instagram stories, vulnerably, terrified, scared, and you say, I right now am setting the goal and I'm going to do it. I am making an extra $100 this week so that I can take my daughter on a mother-daughter date this weekend on Saturday, and we're going to go get our nails done. You wouldn't first of all, now you have to go and do it. You actually have to show up, make $100 to be able to talk about it. But if you don't make that $100, you can show up on Saturday and say, I didn't do it, but you bet your butt I'm not stopping. I'm still pushing for it. It's going for next Saturday. Involving your family in your goals, in your vision, in your motivation, makes it a real opportunity and makes it a real job, but it also gets them understanding that it's possible. Does that make sense? Like, it gets them really seeing, oh, this is how this can happen. Another way that you could do it is asking your significant other if they would like to go on the paid trip. If you are not somebody who is motivated by like the trips, some people just don't want to travel, that's fine. If you are not motivated by that, but your significant other is, what if you actually talked about the vision and asked them, how would you feel if I earned this trip for us? How would you feel if I got to tell you, hey, we earned this trip together, we get to go to Dominican or wherever it is the following year? Ask them and involve them in that creation of that vision, and then go work your butt to go and make it happen. Then show up on social media and talk about how you're terrified to make this happen, or you're afraid to fail, or you aren't even interested in the travel aspects, but this business provides that opportunity and your husband really wants to earn that travel. You want to give him this opportunity to take that week off and not have to worry about paying for the vacation or whatever it is. Involve them in the process of creating that vision. And I know that seems so like kind of duh, but I'm actually going to give you, I just decided this right now. I'm going to give everybody homework for, you have until like, what's today? Monday? Wednesday. Sometime between tonight and Wednesday, you need to tag me in a story, in an Instagram story, that paints the vision that you made or created, the goal or the vision, with your family, significant other, or family member. Go and get them involved. Tag me in that story so that I can see it, because I don't follow. If you heard me, I have blinders down, you guys. I don't follow coaches. I don't follow people. I don't know what's going on in your lives. I love every single person, but I have no idea. I don't follow crap. I am blinders on. So the only way that I will see it is if you tag me in your story, but I want you to go and create a goal or a vision and involve them. You show the people in your life, especially the people that are closest to you, you show them how to support you. You show them whether they should believe in you or not. If you are not confident in this business, they will not be confident in you. If you don't believe in the possibility of their vision, they're not going to believe in the possibility of that vision. If you can't paint a specific, tangible, real, detailed goal of where you are going and what you're going to accomplish and what you're going to get from this, they're not going to be able to. It is you. It is on you to paint and give them permission to believe in you based on how you talk about the business, how you set goals, how you involve them in the process. This one single thing alone, just saying, hey, come and be here on a team call with me, talk about it, hear about it, listen about it. Let's, come and be involved in this world of coaching. That one little thing, this one little action can change the way that they see the business. It can now become this, hey, yeah, this is like a real thing. Okay, cool, I'm in, okay? Okay, that's what I have for you. So you have homework between tonight and Wednesday. Tag me on an Instagram story, sharing your vision or your goal that you created with your family. And other than that, go be vulnerable. Go poop your pants a little bit. Go squirm all over the place, but that's how you're going to build connection, and that's how you're going to show up in a true, authentic way. I hope that was really helpful.
Thank you. That was so good.
You're welcome.
And I appreciate you taking your Monday to do this for us, because I've been noticing you for the last 2 months, like you said, now since you just started doing it. I'm like, I have to ask. It's just so good. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Does anybody have any questions before I pop off?
Anybody, you guys can all unmute yourself if you have any questions for Ray.
Can I ask a question to Kyle?
Yes, who is that?
So, Kyle.
Oh, hey.
Hey.
So I actually have to say, I think that's a really smart idea, right? To ask, some stuff with families, whatever. Kyle, do you find, do you see a change in how you look at the business now that you've been more involved in Ray's business for the calls with the team?
Yeah, I think so. So especially over the last little bit, like she said, she's painted a little bit of a better picture. And so I know a little bit more of what's involved. When she was struggling a bit at the start of the year, I felt really out of it. It just kind of felt like she was doing her thing. I was doing my thing. And since we moved here to Waterloo, she's gone a little bit better with sharing and painting that vision and letting me know where she is, both on a day-to-day and in big picture. And I felt that's actually helped me to open up to her about what I'm doing at my work as well. I talked to her about what I have going on at work and my goals and all of my targets at work. It's a lot easier for me to communicate with her about that. So yeah, I think just in general, having that line of communication with a significant other, family, friend, whoever it happens to be, it does make a difference.
I would say too that I've always painted this vision of, we're gonna make lots of money and I'm going to run this team and so on. Like, he knew all of those things, but it was more the little things. Like, it was honestly more this is what I want my office to look like. This is, the truck that I want to drive. I remember when we drove here, I literally hid from him this goal that I wanted to buy a truck, and I've always wanted to buy a truck. And when we came to Waterloo, I was like, I'm done living in this little box, this hidden box of, oh, I have to do this all by myself and can't tell him anything because if I fail, then he's going to think that I'm a joke or whatever. So forget it. So we came to Waterloo, and I literally asked him when we were driving one day, I was like, I want a truck, and can we go look at them over there? And we literally walked around. And I remember so clearly, I could feel his this is really dumb. Why are we walking around? And why are we looking at things that we can't afford? We're not even close to affording this truck. How are we possibly going to afford this? Why would we do this? This is a waste of time. Why wouldn't we do this later? But as we walked around, I was saying things like, I can't wait to be able to afford this. Or I'm working, okay, this is how much money I need to make in order to cover this. Then over the next few days, I really broke that down and was like, okay, Kyle, this is what I did the math that you want me to do and all of the realistic whatever crap planning, and this is what I know I need to do. What does this sound like? Does this sound like a realistic plan? And just involving him in that way where it was the little things, the actual scary goals, like I was mentioning, those things are what terrify me. And I would say other things like speaking. One of the things that I have just recently started putting out there is this massive, gigantic dream that I have of being a speaker. And I started talking to him about that and really saying I want to, speak on stages at Summit, or I want to speak on stages at, or for business things and all of that. And he started being like, oh my gosh, I think you would be really good at teaching about this, or you would really love this kind of thing. So I feel like it was honestly mostly the smaller goals, not necessarily the big ones.
Yeah, because my coach, Chrislyn, said in the chat, what makes it hard for her is that she doesn't feel like her husband is really into her doing this whole coaching thing. So what would you say was how did you start involving him, baby steps? Because you didn't just throw it all at him at once, but what's something she could do in your opinion to get him more involved? Because, unlike you know, some of us who our husbands are doing the workouts or super supportive of that, like that's not the case for everybody. I know Kyle does the workouts. Brian just started literally 3 years in, 3 years, you guys, mind you, and he's now committing to his first program. So it's not always easy to get them all on board. Like it took over 3 years for him to be like, okay, I'm going to do this one with you. So what's your opinion as far as like something she could do if he doesn't want to do the workouts? Like what's something else to involve him?
Yeah. So the main thing that Kyle always says, if you were to ask him, how are you involved in the business, is he supports around the house. So he'll do the dishes, he'll do the cleaning, he's super patient with doing things on his own. And he's like, okay, I know that you are working and I get that. And however, mind you, we are really good at communicating. And we very much will say, okay, are you working or are you just messing around? But with that being said, one of the ways that he supported for years until he actually got into the business, even just talking about the business, was he literally just supported around the house. And that was enough for it did still feel like I was very much doing it alone. We argued a lot on it, like I want you to be involved and so on. But at the end of the day, they just don't get it. They don't know what this business is. They don't get it. So my number one tip would be figure out what he is doing to support you, or that he is doing that shows you a little bit. Like even if he's just helping out with a couple of chores around the house, or giving you that 2 hours a day or that hour a week to get on a team call and just have some you time for a little bit, live in that, appreciate that. Don't focus on what he's not doing, focus on what he is doing. The second thing I would do is bring him to an event. Non-negotiable. The only reason Kyle started believing in Beachbody, not just me, but in the business, was because of his first summit, which was in New Orleans. And he has been a believer of the opportunity. Like he will tell everybody that this opportunity is worth it because he believes in the business side of things, not just me. The third tip that I would give,
and for that, it was really cool going to Summit to be able to hear the other coaches' stories and seeing some of these other women who are up there and just realizing they don't really have anything that much more special than my wife. That time, my fiance or girlfriend or wherever you were. And it's like, you realize that like it just needs something to click, or one little bit of momentum, something just needs to get rolling. And all of a sudden you can build on what you've already started and end up having a good business that can really benefit your family's future or your future for the long term. So I think just seeing a couple of those stories, a couple of those other people, and realizing how possible it is.
Yeah. And then I would say the third one that you can really do, this can go for everybody. I actually would highly recommend doing it. If you are a journaler, you can do it in your journal. If you don't journal and you think it's weird, I still want you to get out a blank piece of paper, and at the top of it, I want you to write down, if everything was exactly the way I wanted it to be, what would it look like? If everything was exactly the way I wanted it to be, what would it look like? You can adjust those words just a little bit to say, so for example, you can say something like, if my husband was into this business exactly the way I want him to be, what would that look like? And literally just free write. Just write out everything, because in that process, you are probably going to discover that very little thing, that fear or the doubt that you have because he's not involved. So, for example, it might be like, I want him to be involved because you don't feel that you can do it on your own. You want him to be involved because you don't feel like he believes in you. So now there's this doubt that he doesn't believe in you. And all you have to do is go and talk to him and say, hey, babe, I really want you to believe in this business. Do you? And then you can have a conversation there. I also want to give you the permission to have the really hard conversations, you guys. Don't hide away from, do you believe in me in this business? because you're afraid that your significant other, your family or whatever is going to say, no, I don't believe in you. How are you ever going to overcome that resistance, that block, that obstacle in making that? You will never have this business. It will never be the way that you want it to be if you don't remove that obstacle. So don't be afraid to have the really hard conversation if that's something that comes up. But that's exactly what I would do, is at the top of your paper, you're going to write, if everything was exactly the way I wanted it to be, I said that. If everything was exactly the way I wanted it to be, what would it look like? And then paint that vision.
My coaches, Allie and Cindy, just said that if they hadn't brought their husbands to Summit, they probably still wouldn't be coaching. And I will third that. Not that I wouldn't still be coaching, but when I brought my husband's first trip, actually wasn't Summit. It was Punta Cana in 2017 for a Success Club trip. And he was like, holy cow, they reward you guys like this. This thing is real. So when Ray says, bring your man or your boyfriend, whatever he is to you, to an event, it will make a believer out of them. And if it doesn't, then it doesn't. But I mean, it most likely will.
Yeah. And remember, you show them how to support you. If you believe in it, you are showing them how to believe in it too. If they have any doubts or fears, you've given them that permission. So either do personal development to change that, or show them that they have a reason to believe in you. I hope that was a helpful answer.
No, it was great. It was great. Does anybody else have any other questions before we let Ray and Kyle go?
Excellent.
Chrislyn said it was helpful, and thank you.
Excellent.
Well, thank you again, Ray. Thank you, Kyle. This was great. It was super helpful.
No
It was
problem.
awesome.
Yay, no problem. All right. I'm doing the Dynasty call on Wednesday.
I saw.
I know. I'm like low-key pooping my pants. So
Well, this is like prep for you.
I know.
This is
So
prep.
everybody needs to make sure that they get on that call. So
Oh, we will.
I'll
we
support
will.
me.
We will, for sure. You'll do
Excellent.
great. Thank you so much.
You're so
Bye,
welcome.
Ray.
You guys are awesome. Bye.
Bye, guys.